Okay, dear students, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We were discussing about the Russian military strategy, their nuclear capabilities, their offensive, capabilities, and modern inductions which they have got in modern times, their threat perception in the world, and how they are countering and that particular threat perception. So, in the last slide, we discussed about the missile which the Russians have developed in modern times, and this missile is aimed at countering the Russian, the American defense shield in Europe. So that is something which is very, very dangerous. This missile was tested, and now it is operational in the Russian military. अच्छा जी. So overall, we discussed about the Russian overall military capabilities, in which we discussed the Russian defense capabilities also, and Russian overall military strategy in the world, the threats which they are facing internally or externally, and all these things were discussed in this particular lecture. We discussed, I just skipped a few things. I thought there are many slides, but this is about to end. I think we can just have a quick recap on the Russian threat perception, and it is definitely it comes from the NATO, the creation and deployment of strategic systems. Missile defense, which I have already discussed with you, global stability and violate the balance of forces in nuclear missile sphere, implementation of the concept of global strike, which we have already discussed, that they are developing certain capabilities which have the capacity and capability to carry out strike any part of the world with their strong bombers, with their modern bombers, with their nuclear submarines, with their hypersonic missiles, and with their the deployment of weapons in their in allies in their in Europe, in Turkey and other countries. So territorial claims to the Russian Federation and its allies and interference in their internal affairs, that is also unacceptable to the Russians. Like you have seen in Crimea, the Ukraine, how the Russians have aggressively played their role. The proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, missiles and missile technology, which I have already discussed, the hypersonic missiles which the Americans are developing, and many other countries. A violation of certain states of international arrangements, as well as failure to comply with previously concluded international treaties in the field of prohibition, restriction and reduction of armaments. So that is something which is also there. The Americans and their allies are continuously developing capabilities, certain capabilities, which are oxymoron to their own claims that they want disarmament in the world. The use of military force in the territories of contiguous with the Russian Federation and its allies, in the violation of Charter of United Nations and other rules of the international law. United Nations UN resolution or UN charter says all Article 2.4 that the all member states shall refrain from threat or use of force against another member state. But if you analyze the American approach, they attacked Iraq, they attacked Libya, they attacked other countries. They carried out economic attack against Iran, and their attack on Afghanistan was also devastating, which was close neighborhood to the Russians. And through Central Asia, they connect Afghanistan. So it had direct implications for the Russian Federation. Why? Because when the Taliban were ruling Afghanistan in 2001, at that time there was 0% cultivation of drug trade. Opium cultivation was 0%. But now in modern times, the Afghan drug trade dominate the global, drug you can say market, opium market. So this particular threat seriously challenges the Russian security. How it challenges the Russian security? Because the Afghan drug trade, goes through to the world through three routes. One route goes through Pakistan, which is the, you can say, biggest route. Through Pakistan, they go to Middle East and Europe, and then another route is through Iran. 17% of the Afghan drug go through Iran, 44% through Pakistan, and remaining through Tajikistan, and from Tajikistan it enters Russian Federation, and from Russia then Eastern Europe and others. So there are many cartels, the drug cartels and drug mafia who are involved, and they are involved in different heinous crimes. So many people die in those crimes, you can say criminal activities. Many people die because of the drug use and associated businesses. So that is the threat which is there for the Russians, and they believe that every year 30,000 Russians die because of the Afghan drug trade. So that is something which is also a threat for the Russians, and now the Russians are playing a very active role in Afghanistan politics. So just to want to dominate and just to have their own say in Afghanistan. The growing threat of global terrorism and extremism, and its new manifestations in the lack of effective international cooperation against terrorism. So this is something very, very, important. The emergence of Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, ISIS, in Middle East, the IS in Western Africa, in African region, that was also a threat, and the other terrorist groups around the globe. They also pose serious challenge to the global security, regional and global security. So these were the issues which the Russians believed very important for their own security. The real threat of terrorist attacks using radioactive and toxic chemical substances, expansion scales, transnational organized crime, especially illicit trafficking in the arms and drugs. So the Russians also believe that the terrorists, whether they are ISIS or Al Qaeda or many other groups, they are getting sophisticated, and they are now acquiring certain capabilities which are really, really, threatening and dangerous for that particular country. So tomorrow, if they acquire radioactive material, enriched uranium, or anywhere else, the chemical weapons or the biological weapons, they may use it against those countries. And the Russians, they fear these threats because they have been fighting the ISIS in Iraq and Syria. They have been fighting the ISIS in Afghanistan, and their own people, the Uzbeks, the Tajiks, and the Chechens, their own citizens. They have been actively participating in ISIS terrorist activities around the globe. So that is something which is definitely seriously creating problem for the global peace and security. So that also is a challenge. Now, how Russians are coping up with this challenge? I told you about Afghanistan, that they played a very, very important and dominating role in the Afghan negotiation with the between the Americans and the Taliban. They hosted Moscow talks, and they invited Taliban and many other groups in the world, countries in the world. They played active role in Iraq and Syria with their air force, land forces, and their other forces, intelligence, and other things. And they have also been supporting countries in Africa against ISIS or against Al Shabaab or against many other terrorist groups. So that is how they are tackling this threat also. और अपने मुल्क के अंदर जो था उनका दागिस्तान के अंदर और चेचनिया के अंदर जो इशू था उसको उन्होंने काफी हद तक दे कंट्रोल्ड, or they carried out some decisive military operations against their own internal terrorist groups. The Russians believe the use of information and communication technologies in the military political purposes for acts contrary to international law, aimed versus sovereignty, political interdependence, territorial integrity of states, and threatening international peace, security, and global regional security. The use of information and communication technologies. अच्छा, इसके अंदर they are talking about the cyber technologies, cyber warfare, and how the American, you can say, hackers or the European hackers, they sneak into the Russian systems. अच्छा, ये आपस में दोनों करते रहते हैं. The Russians also do the same, and the Americans also play their role. They try to create subversion, they try to create problems. एक तो ये है. दूसरे नंबर पे इसका एक और domain है, which is also using the social media to influence the politics, influence the other people. अभी आपने देखा होगा, सुना भी होगा कि Russians, they played a great role in the American, जो ट्रम्प का जो हुआ था, election हुआ था, उसके अंदर they played a role and they tried to influence the American public through social media. So that is also something which is there, and the Russians also do the same, और Americans तो करते ही करते हैं. Establishment in the states contiguous with Russian Federation regimes, including as a result of overthrow of legitimate public authorities whose policies threaten the interests of the Russian Federation. ये भी आपको पता ही है, जो सीरिया के अंदर और यूक्रेन के अंदर और बाकी एरियाज के अंदर जो चीजें होती रही, ये उसी को तो डिपेक्ट कर रही है. ठीक है. So basically, the Russians are trying to counter all these things with their, economic, military, and political connectivity in the world, and they are closely aligned with the Chinese, and they are, trying to come up with, different technologies just to counter the American, you can say, dominance in the world. So guys, I think this is all for today, and if you got any question, you can